And now we'll see if anyone can come along and actually confirm that they can hear me. Well, everyone, there was going to be a middle story time in this time slot, more or less, but we find ourselves still out and about in Daegu, South Korea after a day of amazing cherry blossom viewing, which means that we will not be doing medieval story time tonight. I will do it on Saturday morning instead of my usual medieval sewing party. So I thought I would take the time in the environs of this gorgeous Hanok Starbucks, where we like to get some of the best green tea you can get in Korea for the price. And I thought I would take the opportunity to actually answer some of the questions and respond to some of the comments people have been making on the last couple of now very polemic and viral videos I have put out there. So if you are just joining, welcome to my medieval Let's Chat session. And let's get right to it. If you have questions as I'm going along, pop them in the live chat and I will be certain to answer them. If you have questions about anything, including what I'm wearing right now. I'm not dressed medievally, in case anyone is wondering. This is 19th century Joseon fashion. So not medieval at all. Tamikor, good morning. I thought I'd try this different time slot for several reasons, and I know many of you are going to be getting ready for work in the Americas, or maybe you're still awake, some of you night owl types, but maybe some of my European and African and Middle Eastern peeps might have a better chance of seeing me now. Yeah, Tamikor, how's it going? How are things going where you are? So I've put out a couple of videos lately. Also, just let me know if you can hear me and double tap that screen to, like algorithm, blah, blah, frickety blah. So we've had some interesting responses lately, especially to my medieval hair combing video. What always surprises me is how people don't listen to the words I actually say. They don't even read the words I actually write. The words enter their ears, go through their brain, and then their brain interprets them completely differently to anything I actually said. So I recently put out a video demonstrating medieval hair combing, a short video, spun off from one of my full getting dressed videos, demonstrating medieval hair combing, right? Oh, Project Taeyang, yeah, Project, yeah. We're currently in Daegu, South Korea, so we're on the other side with you, more or less, about 2 hours, 3 hours away, I guess. So I recently put out a video about medieval hair combing, and I demonstrated. It was a short. And I pointed out that the medieval comb, historical combs, but medieval combs especially, are very good. What they're designed to do is help clean your hair, right? The comb actually removes the oils, removes excess oils, and redistributes the oil from your scalp. And in doing so, it actually cleans your hair by removing any of the detritus, the dirt, the dust, ash, soot from fires in the air, pollution, right? It actually removes the detritus that has built up in the oil. I also pointed out that the comb actually stimulates your scalp and cleans your scalp as well, because the wooden combs, unlike modern brushes, were actually dragged along the scalp to really get rid of the dead skin cells and really give your scalp a good dry cleaning. And I've had so many people who didn't hear me at all, and all they heard me say was, don't ever wash your hair again. This is the only thing you're ever going to need for the rest of your life, which I absolutely did not say. All I said was, in the Middle Ages and pre the end of the 19th century, when all these big shampoo and conditioner companies basically arise at about the same time that a lot of different crazy product companies arise. Before that, people didn't wash their hair every day. No one did. No one washed their hair every day before that. And so in between washings, you used a comb to help keep your hair clean. But so many people jumped on the wagon of, oh my God, that's so gross. I can never do that. My scalp would never let me do that. Except that all of these people keep saying it would never work. They don't say it did never work. It didn't work. I tried it and it didn't work. Because the reality is that the way people shampoo their hair now, they're using these very powerful surfactant shampoos, which have very powerful chemicals that really strip the oil out of your hair and off of your scalp. And the thing is, your scalp is skin. And skin responds to repeat exposure. So if you every day or every other day or every couple of days even use a industrial grade surfactant, and that is what shampoo is, to strip the oils from your scalp, your skin, the skin of your scalp, is going to respond by increasing oil production. So it's going to make more and more oil to compensate for you stripping it all the time, which means that it will take weeks, 6 weeks at least, of not using shampoo, modern shampoo, for your scalp to balance itself. That's the reality. Now, is that true for everyone? Yes, of course, there are some people who have some kind of medical condition. They've got something that is different about them from other people, but humans existed for eons, without shampoo, before we finally developed basic lye-based water solutions. And yet we weren't ridden with disease and fungus and open sores on our scalp, and our hair wasn't disgustingly greasy. So yeah, no one actually listened to what I said, because in the Middle Ages, the general regimen was, it was advised that people should wash their hair every 3 weeks. And the way they washed it was with a lye solution. It wasn't a heavy surfactant. It was a lye solution. So yes, it is a surfactant. The basic water makes water wetter. It breaks the surface tension. And so it allows it to remove more grease, but it is not like a modern shampoo where it's going to completely strip all of the oil out of your hair. Squeaky clean is actually not the way your skin should be, believe it or not. But we've been brainwashed into believing that. Anyway, so the point of that video was not that you should stop using soap to wash your hair. It was that we're overwashing it for most people, and that a medieval comb was actually a very effective tool in the whole arsenal of hair care. And that your scalp's natural oils are, lots of studies have been done on this, are actually the healthiest for your hair when your scalp has been rebalanced back to its pre-chemical exposure state. But most people never, they don't want to go through that process. It's a 6-week process to go from using heavy-duty industrial modern shampoos to letting your scalp rebalance so that the oil production goes back to normal. And most people don't want to go through that. I've gone through it. It's gross. Your hair gets really greasy. You're going to feel pretty uncomfortable for about 6 weeks. But after that, for most people, you will find your scalp will be very happy. Your hair will grow very nicely. It will not be dry. It will not be frizzy. And then, of course, I had people say, well, this is white girl stuff, talking about Europe. So yes, that is what I mean. I was talking specifically about medieval Europe. So yeah, some people said there's no way I can dry comb my hair. They didn't always dry comb their hair either. In places where people have really, really kinky curly hair, even in Europe, talking Greece, right? In the Mediterranean, the Eastern Mediterranean, there's a lot of natural kinky curly hair there. And historically, they used to use olive oil to help them comb their hair. So they would use, sometimes they would occasionally use oils to help them comb it, but they didn't have to do it every day. Anyway, what about the homemade soaps and all? It is all too hard on us. Homemade soaps, depends on the person who makes the homemade soap. So there are some homemade soaps that have been what we call super saturated. So that means usually actually a fat is used to make soap. Fat is used to make shampoo bars, it's used to make conditioner bars. If you super saturate it, that means you actually use more fat than you have lye added to it, which is usually hydrogen peroxide, what is the lye? I forget the chemical name for lye. Anyway, yeah, it's a base. Anyway, it's a base. So if you use more fat than you actually use lye, then there's actually fat, whether it's lard or tallow or olive oil or whatever oil you use, left over in the soap bar. And then that becomes a kind of a co-wash bar where it washes and conditions at the same time. So, you know, not all homemade soaps are created equal. Not all shampoo bars are created equal. Not all conditioner bars are created equal. You're gonna have to find what works for you. But the point is that I never said that people never washed their hair in the Middle Ages. What I said is that the comb was a key part of the staying clean regimen, and that it is actually effective, and that people who have actually transitioned to using that for living history experimentation or whatever have nearly always found that it actually worked. So, yeah. Yeah. What is the name of the video that covers the hair topic? Red Australia, I just released it. I think it was released like 2 or 3 days ago. It's a short. It's just a short. So, and that's the other thing. It's a short. It's meant to be a short. It's meant to encourage people to ask questions and look for more information, because in a minute you can't give all the information, because that's basically what a short needs to be these days. I think it's called You've Been Lied To. What is the, yeah, You've Been Lied To. I think it's one, well, I've got another one out called You've Been Lied To.
I've been lied to.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways in which people have been lied to. So I think it's called You've Been Lied To. And then that's spun off from a live stream I did over the weekend, I think it was. Yeah. Yeah. What do these, oh, BitBlock, appreciate that, thank you. What does the hairpin symbolize? So that's a good question. So this is called a binya. So I'm wearing 19th century style hanbok, 19th century style Korean clothing, right? And this is a binya. It's basically a hair stick. And if my hair is up like this, it symbolizes that I'm married. If I were unmarried, my hair would be in a braid down my back, and there would be a ribbon basically braided into the end. But because I've got my hair up in a chignon, in a bun, braided bun, and I've got a hair stick through it in later Joseon dynasty, that is a hairstyle for married women. Literally, they put their hair up to indicate that they were off the market. Yeah. Oh, BitBlock Engine. Where are you in Korea? That's really cool. We're currently in Daegu. We just spent the day walking in cherry blossoms, and it was really quite splendid. It was a beautiful day. It was an absolutely gorgeous day. I'm sorry if I missed some questions. Oh, bendejo. Yeah, so bendejo. Bendejo. Yeah, very funny, bendejo. Bendejo. Very funny, very cute. Chiquito.
And now you're demonetized.
Right, no, I'm demonetized. Right, so this is called a tangi, and it's a top layer. This is actually silk with gold block printing, hand printed. I commissioned this from someone else. I did not make this one. I have made them, but not this one. And this is a garment that is worn with a chima, a skirt, and a whole bunch of other layers underneath. And this was basically court attire in the Joseon dynasty, especially by the end of the Joseon dynasty. This kind of garment wasn't really worn as a fashion garment, as a daily fashion garment. It was worn by the members of the female members of the royal family when they were in the palace. It was worn by court ladies when they were in the palace. It was worn by court ladies when they were in the palace, and it was worn by any noble women who were called to the palace to visit the members of the royal family. So this is really more of a ceremonial garment by the end of the Joseon dynasty. This kind of overgarment where it's sort of open on the sides and makes a sandwich front and back, as you can see. It actually it comes about in the 15th century, and over time it gets narrower and narrower, and the sleeves get narrower and shorter until by the 19th century it's sort of got this really slim line that follows the curves of the natural female form. Yeah. Oh, yeah, BitBlock Engine, we've been, appreciate you, but we kind of have lived here on and off since 2014, so it's not a Korean trip. It's more like a long-term Korean stay, shall we say.
It's a long-term vacation right now.
Korean history, especially modern, from what I know, is messy. I mean, all history is messy. Yeah, all history is messy. I've been studying history since I was a very little girl, and the more I delve into any given country's history or any given region's history, the more I realize it's a mess, and that it's not clear cut, and that any given event can have three truths, right? The truth of speaker A, the truth of speaker B, and the truth of something in the middle between those two observers. So, I mean, I don't think Korean history is really any messier than any other history, honestly. It's just they're all equally a mess. Sort of like all humans are broken to some degree. It's just a question of the flavor of broken. How do I know so much stuff? I know so much stuff because I'm curious, and I love to read, and I love to learn and listen to lectures, and it's a continuous process. For me, life is about continuous lifelong learning. So I retain information easily. I guess, easier than other people maybe. And so, yeah, so that's why I know so much. But I'll be honest, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know, to the point where I sometimes feel paralyzed about sharing information because I'm worried that the information I currently know, in quotes, and understand might not be correct tomorrow. But I've realized that I just have to share information and caveat everything with, this is my understanding as I currently have it, based on the sources I've currently read, but tomorrow I may have a different understanding. And that is history. History is not set in stone. There is no truth, no single truth to history. There is an evolving truth to history. So, yeah. There are so many love hotels in Korea, it's crazy. It's on every block. BitBlock Engine, are you here? Do you live in Korea currently? The number of love hotels has dropped drastically since 2014. They're now all business hotels now. Am I Russian Orthodox? Absolutely not. No. Nope, not even a little bit. You should be monitoring and you should be, I can't moderate and do this. Your phone? Is it dead? We have the portable charger with us, don't we?
No.
We didn't
You
bring?
brought your bag, and it's in the bag.
Oh, no, I did not. Yep. Let me see. Question. I never traveled. Does it look beautiful over there like the pic on social media? If you're interested, so this is not my travel channel. This is my medieval / history channel. If you check my travels with the creative Contessa, we did a live stream through cherry blossoms today, and it is gorgeous. You can check out, I've got a whole Korea playlist there. I've got a Seoul playlist, a Gyeongju playlist, a Busan playlist, a Korea playlist, and a, did I say Daegu? A Daegu playlist. And you can see for yourself, Korea really is beautiful. And Korea is an evolving country, and it's a developing country, and it's developing at a crazy rate.
Not that it's not a first world country.
No. It is a developed country already. God knows it's crazy, it's beautiful, but it is constantly improving itself. So, Gyeongbokgung, the palace in Seoul that was built originally at the end of the 14th century, right? It was destroyed by the Japanese and then also by the Korean War, it was broken apart and stolen by the Japanese, and what was left got really damaged by the Korean War. And in the late 80s, Korea launched a campaign to rebuild Gyeongbokgung, building by building, exactly as it was before the Japanese colonization. And every time we go back to Gyeongbokgung in Seoul, the main central palace now, new buildings have been rebuilt and opened, freshly painted, so you can see what a medieval Korean palace felt like and looked like when it was fresh and new. Unlike castles in Europe, where you go and you see what they look like and feel like generally as ruins. So I always tell people, just because you were in Korea 5 years ago doesn't mean anything, because it's changing so rapidly. I mean, this everyone, this is a Starbucks, right? Would you believe that this is a Starbucks? This is a Starbucks. And this is a new Starbucks that they built in downtown Daegu. And, I don't know, I haven't found out if it was a deal that Starbucks struck with the city of Daegu to build in this historic neighborhood, or if they just decided that they knew that they were going to attract a lot more people if they had this beautiful historic style building instead of the usual whatever cafe, but it's gorgeous. Yep. Twitchy-wit, yeah, this is my tangi, Dangdogori, as it was originally called, and then it eventually got shortened to tangi. It means long dogori, so the long shirt, long jacket, depending on how you want to translate it. There's no good equivalent really in English for this garment. But this is 19th century. So this is 19th century Joseon. This is not a medieval garment, just to be very clear. But it is actual silk, and it is hand block printed with gold. It's called kumbak, is this particular art, handcraft in Korean. Yeah. Yeah, the Project Taeyang says, what? I thought it was like some historic site, right? Wouldn't you have thought that? But all you have to do is buy a nice cup of Jeju Nokta, Jeju green tea, or whatever drink of choice, and sit, and then you can enjoy this amazing space for as long as you like. They will not kick you out. And the really nice thing about Starbucks here in Korea is that they seriously localize. So for instance, this is green tea, organic green tea from Jeju Island. Right? They have all kinds of desserts and drinks that are all very, very localized. Korean style desserts, Korean style, coffees that have been given a Korean flair, tea frappes that have been given a Korean flair. They've got like a sweet potato frappe in there, right? For instance. So yeah, really awesome place. It screams gold work in my brain. I want to do motif gold work now. Yeah, right? Like, so, and the thing is that there is lots of symbolism, like there, the Chinese characters, right? These are characters that actually I do not read. Okay, this is book. I'm pretty certain this one is book. I don't read Chinese characters. I need to learn. I need to get better at reading. There's like a few Chinese characters I can read, but you can see the Chinese characters worked into this pattern, and they're all symbols of. They're all characters that are words of prosperity. Good luck, good fortune, longevity. That kind of thing, and all the different flora and fauna are also symbolic. So it's not just a beautiful, more Chinese characters and calligraphy, right? So it's not just a beautiful garment; it's a symbolic garment as well.
It's almost
Right?
talismanic.
Yeah, the pomegranates. Yep. Let me see. Block Engine says people are pretty respectful in Korea, but not as hardcore as Japanese. Korean aren't as racist either. I would say, you know what I think about, but they're still pretty racist. I'm not going to make that observation, but I will say I feel like Korea is a more relaxed cousin to Japan, right? The Japanese, Koreans have really high standards of everything. Cleanliness. If they undertake any craft like this, then they're going to do it times 100, right? If they take up any Western art, oil painting, playing the violin, embroidery in the Western style, then they're going to do it times 1,000. Tango, Argentine tango here. You would think these people were Argentine the way they managed to imitate exactly the way they do it in Argentina. The Lindy Hoppers here in Korea. Better than the American Lindy Hoppers, the OG Lindy Hoppers, right? So if they're going to do it, they're going to do it times 100. But there's also a more relaxed attitude about the way other people do it, right? Is my personal experience.
If we turn it around, I can monitor the chat.
Let me see. Am I married to a Korean? I'm not. I am not. I'm married to a very not Korean individual. That one, the one who popped his head in at the very wrong angle. Let me see. Project Taeyang says, for context, Korea didn't have a writing system for a long time, so they used Chinese characters until they made Hangul. That is correct. So here's the thing. Hangul is the Korean alphabet, the Korean alphabet, and it was invented by Sejong the Great in the 15th century. Sejong is the kind of king, is the kind of ruler we all need right now. Seriously, he was amazing on all levels. He was a social reformer, he was a social justice warrior, he was an engineer, he was a scientist, he was a philosopher, he was a poet, he was a musician, he was a warrior, he was a genuinely curious individual. And under his reign, Joseon flourished. Unfortunately, one of the things he invented was Hangul, was the Korean alphabet. And it's because the Chinese writing system that had been used basically all across Asia for 2,000 years at that point, maybe not 2,000, but close. Coming up on it 1,500 years probably at least by the time Sejong the Great came along. He realized that it was such a complex writing system that the only people who could actually become literate and competently literate were the wealthy, were the aristocrats. And he realized that his aristocrats were abusing and taking advantage of everyone else because they were literate and they could read and manipulate and understand the law, but most of his people couldn't. And he also realized that the reality is that farmers don't have time to devote hundreds of hours to obtaining fluency in Chinese writing. They needed to farm. His artisans didn't have hundreds of hours to devote to attaining fluency in Chinese writing. They needed to do the livelihood that kept them from starving. So he decided he was going to invent a Korean writing system that was made for the Korean language. And he developed this alphabet in which each character represents the sound, or the way the mouth and tongue and teeth are positioned to make that sound. And it was extremely phonetic, especially at the beginning. In the 15th century, just like any other language, there has been evolution in pronunciation in language since the 15th century. So Korean is not pronounced quite the same way now as it was back then. And so there's been some phonetic drift in the alphabet. So the alphabet isn't quite as phonetic as it once was, but it's still pretty damn phonetic. And so he introduces this alphabet, and his aristocrats, his nobles, lose their ever-loving minds because they realize what this means for them. They know that knowledge equals power, right? They know that if the farmers can understand the law by reading it, God forbid, that they might realize that they actually have these rights and that they aren't supposed to be taken advantage of in that way. And so after Sejong the Great dies, that alphabet is suppressed. That it survived it all is a miracle. It becomes the alphabet for the farmers, for the commoners, and for women, noble or otherwise. But it is forbidden as to be used in official court, an official language, an official correspondence, in the law, in anything that really has any power. So it becomes the language of literature, or the alphabet of poetry. It becomes the language of correspondence, the alphabet of correspondence, especially for women. So a lot of women's writings that have survived from the Joseon dynasty, written in their own hand, are written in Hangul, right? And I actually saw in the museum the other day, Daegu National Museum, from the early 19th century, there was a guide, a household guide, how to be a good housewife in early 19th century Joseon. And it was obviously aimed at women because it was all written in Hangul, right? It was not written in Chinese characters. So yeah, Korean absolutely has a fantastic alphabet, but that's why the symbols, the characters on this garment are not Hangul, the ones indicating prosperity and longevity. No, those are obviously going to therefore be Chinese characters because that was still the official language of the court, right, in the 19th century. So yeah. Okay, goodness, missed some comments. Let me see. Appreciate you hitting that like button. If you're enjoying this live stream, do hit the like button, double tap your screen, and consider subscribing. Yeah, Twitchy comments, that's why it was so scandalous when the Bible began to be translated in the vernacular. Yeah, God forbid that everyone be able to understand it. However,
They don't understand it.
except they don't. So I will make a counter argument about the Bible, not so much about law. And in any case, for law, you should kind of have lawyers to help you interpret it anyway. But with the Bible, the problem is that you actually do need a good education to understand a lot of the symbolism, the allegory, the analogies, the subtext of many biblical texts. And without that understanding, it gets grossly misinterpreted, which even with that understanding, there are a lot of bad actors out there who misinterpret it for their own political purposes. Historically, that's always been true. So yeah, translating the Bible into the vernacular also has challenges because of the translation part. Because especially in the original language of many of the scriptures, a lot gets lost in translation if the translator is not educated enough to understand all of that subtext and to carry it across, right? So there are challenges. Yes, obviously there was a concern about the loss of power and people being able to interpret them for themselves, but there was also the other side of that coin is they were rightly concerned about people not just interpreting it correctly, but misinterpreting it, which has happened in a lot of cases. Yeah. You know a lot about Hangul. That's amazing. Uni, welcome. Thank you. Welcome to my channel. I'm dressed today in my 19th century Joseon ensemble. Not really medieval at all, of course. 19th century is no longer medieval anywhere. But today it was cherry blossoms. The cherry blossoms have sprung, and so we were out exploring, and we're now enjoying some tea at one of my favorite tea places in Korea. It's actually a Starbucks here in Daegu. And so I thought I'd do a live stream now and dispel some of the confusion that's been coming out around some of my videos lately. And of course, just interact with all of you who may have questions. Yep, I'm currently in Korea. Hi, it's the same true of other religions. Is it the same with true of other religions and writings? So I'm going to tell you, honestly, scripture, religious texts, texts that are spiritual in nature, tend to all be full of subtext and allegory. It's not something that's just easily interpreted. That's part of the point, is that it's supposed to be mysterious in a certain way. And I think a lot of modern people especially don't understand the point of scriptures, because we've moved to a place of popular religion, which is not historically what religion has been. Religion being accessed by average everyday people is a recent development in human civilization. If you look all across the world, we've always appointed people in the communities to interpret spirituality, spiritual interactions, to be a conduit between the average everyday person and the divine, whatever the divine is. So that's true of scripture historically, no matter whose scripture. What?
I need to get an interpreter to be able to understand.
You do. You haven't found the right
You're my
atheist
divine-
interpreter.
No, for you. You're my divine.
Yeah.
No, that was good.
Yeah. Ani says, your hanbo is really beautiful. Are you staying in Seoul? If you get the chance, please visit a place called Suwon as well. It's not far from Seoul.
Suwon.
Oh, Ani, we love Suwon. So I guess I should introduce myself. I am the creative Contessa. Some of you know me as Rachel. I have traveled around the world and lived all over the world most of my life. I haven't lived very much of it in the US at this point. Over the past 12 years, we have spent 9 of them more or less in Korea. So I've traveled all over Korea. If you check out my travels with the Creative Contessa channel, which is the sister channel to this, I have a massive playlist full of all kinds of Korean travel adventures. We love Suwon. We love walking the walls in Suwon.
Walk the walls.
Yeah, we've walked the walls, we've rung the bell. I haven't gotten to do the archery yet. Have you done the archery yet at Suwon? I haven't gotten to do.
Try and do it with the kids.
Yeah, they were closed. The Suwon archery range was closed. But yeah, we love Suwon. It's a great. I love taking friends there, and
Super scary church.
I love taking my friends to Suwon and making them walk the 6 kilometers of medieval walls.
Stairs.
Yeah. Let me see.
But we are down in Daegu right now. We're not in Seoul.
We're not in Seoul. Yeah, we're in Daegu. Sorry. Yep. So yeah. Yesterday we went to Gyeongju and took friends on a tour because it was cherry blossoms, but it was so cold yesterday. Oh my God, it was so much colder than it was supposed to be. And it started raining at the very end of the day. But and then let's say last week, 2 weeks ago, we were in Busan for several days, and we had planned to go to Goryeo, to the Daegaya tombs tomorrow, but we kind of need a break. We need a day of being at home, actually. But next week, we are going to a 15th century Hanok village, a traditional village that was founded in the 15th century and that has 15th century homes in it. The whole village is nothing but historical architecture like this. There's no modern architecture at all. And people still live in this village. And it's called Yangdong Maul, Yangdong Folk Village. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And we're going to be staying in a 16th century Hanok, 16th century building like this that has been used in multiple period K-dramas. And we're going to stay there for 3 days, Tuesday through Thursday. We're going to wear hanbok, historical style hanbok, every day. We're going to be live streaming. We're going to be enjoying the beautiful atmosphere that is. So if you're interested in following us on those adventures next week, make sure to hit that notification bell and click all. And also check out my Travels with the Creative Contessa channel, because I'll be doing more streaming from there probably than from my history-based channel.
And you can see a preview of
Yeah.
it, because we did a video there once.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, Uni, are you in Suwon? Because I haven't been to Suwon in a couple of years, actually. Yeah. Uni, if you're in Suwon, I would totally take you up on that offer, because I believe, first off, there's always new things to see in Suwon, because they're constantly building new cool historic sites, rebuilding the historic sites, and I will absolutely take you up on the offer of local expertise showing the cool things. So Uni, absolutely. I'd love to get together with you, 100%. Uni says there's a place called Andong. Yes, Andong is also lovely. We have been to Andong. Andong Jimdak. Yeah, Andong is another historic place, and it's also the home of some very powerful historical Korean clans. The Andong Kim clan, for instance, played a big role in Korean in the Joseon dynasty. And there's of course Hahae Folk Village, which is there in Andong as well. Andong is harder to get to, though, by public transit, because the trains don't go to Andong as often as they used to back when the Mugunghwa was still traveling a lot. So yeah, we're in Andong still, like, it's got the modern part of the city, and then it's got kind of the part that's set aside where they've relocated all of the historic buildings that were going to be destroyed when they dammed the river. But Yangdong Mall isn't like that. Yangdong Mall is original. It's still the way it was in the 15th and 16th centuries. It's a car-free town. It's not near any big city. I mean, it's kind of close to Pohang, but not close enough that Pohang interferes with it.
They even have a horse.
And there's even a horse that you can, hypothetically, I'm hoping I can ride. Stay tuned for Contessa riding horse in Hanbo, hopefully. To get to Yangdong Mall, it's actually easiest to take the KTX to Pohang, and then it's just a 15,000 won taxi ride to Yangdong Mall, so relatively easy. Yep.
That's like $10.
Okay, interesting. So cool, Ani. If I'm on Facebook and on Instagram and on TikTok, which might be easier to message me, if that would be, we would be honored. We would be really honored to meet up with you and get the local bird's eye view of Suwon, because we love Suwon, and we haven't been back to Suwon in a couple of years. So it's time to go back and see what's cool in Suwon. So that would be super awesome, seriously. Tommy Kor says, my Korean older brother, his family is from Pohang. I remember going on vacation there with him. Yeah, Pohang has also evolved and developed massively in the last 12 years. Pohang didn't used to have a KTX station, and now it does. And now you can get from Pohang to Seoul in like an hour and 40 minutes. It's real fast. Or hour 40 minutes to 2 hours, depending on which one you take. Yeah. Oh goodness. Yeah, you sure we didn't bring any, Okay, well, back to discussing some of the questions and comments we've been getting. Someone asked if I take colloidal silver, because in the lighting of one of my videos, I guess they were trying to imply that I had a gray-blue hue to my skin, and so I must therefore take colloidal silver for whatever reason. No, I don't take colloidal silver. This is my skin tone because I'm pale. I'm very, very pale. Like you can see, pale. This is just me. It's just my pale skin. I avoid exposure to the sun because I don't want sunspots and freckles and skin cancer, so I'm just pale, my natural hue. And my skin therefore reflects the tone of whatever light is on it pretty faithfully. So if there's a blue-gray light on my skin, then I look blue-gray, I guess. But no, I do not take colloidal silver. Yeah.
We actually had to look it up.
Yeah, we had to look it up because there was just this smart-ass question. You can kind of tell when someone's trying to neg you. It's like, do you take colloidal silver? And I thought, yeah, they're probably trying to insult me. So we looked up, how did you do the search?
Ingesting colloidal silver.
Ingesting colloidal silver, which led to the comment about it leading to a
Natural
blue-gray skin.
antibacterial,
Yeah, I did know that.
and
Yeah.
since the 90s, people have been like, oh, you need to take it again.
Oh.
It's better for you than the other.
No, I don't take colloidal
It
silver.
can cure cancer. And
No.
all that. It's like, no.
No, I don't take colloidal silver.
Those people are morons.
Oh, Ayla, lovely to see you. It's okay. This is a really informal one, Ayla. So no worries. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, just let me know. Oh, George, appreciate that compliment. Thank you. If you're all enjoying, don't forget to double tap that screen, by the way. And if you have questions about medieval European history, Korean fashion, medieval European fashion, just let me know. I'm actually in the midst of a big research project with Dr. Min-ji Kim, who is one of the world's leading experts in the history of Korean fashion. And she and I are, some of you know this, so I'm sorry if you've heard this before, but for those who haven't, we're doing a research project together to explore the way in which Korean clothing was produced, was made, was sewn in the early Joseon dynasty, so 15th, 16th centuries. I would like to go earlier, but we have very, very few garments that have survived from that time. So we have actually been going to museums together, going behind the scenes and examining existing historical Korean clothing in person, using my eyes and my hands to actually turn the garments over, look at the seams, look at the hems, and assess the order in which the pieces were put together and the stages of construction. So we're working on this project together. We're going to write a big paper about it together. We're going to talk about the early Joseon history of Korean clothing, the kinds of laws that influence clothing, the economic situation, what kinds of fabrics, and I'm going to be remaking these garments the way based on our observations in these museums. So we've got a big project underway. We've already looked at 7 garments total. I've looked at 3 skirts, 2 pairs of joksam, which are 2 joksam, 2 pairs of dansokot. The dansokot are actually underpants, and I'm going to get a little spicy here. I'm going to show you my underpants. You're going to be disappointed. All right, these are Korean. These are dansokot. These are underpants from the early Joseon dynasty. They're made of hemp, and they're part of the thing that actually adds poof to the skirts in that era. So I've looked at 2 pairs of dansokot. I've looked at 3 chima, and 2 of them were godol chima, so the big chima that were worn over top. One of them was a sok chima. And I've also now looked at 2 doksam at the Seoul National Folk Museum. And I've already learned so many amazing things about how these garments were made.
You didn't actually say what the joksam is yet.
Oh, the doksam is an undershirt, basically. It's the garment that theirs was called a hansam, but it's basically the garment that was worn against the skin, and it's the layer that gets washed, that gets laundered to a fairly well so that it can be cleaned of smells and stains and oils and all the things that might happen from being in direct contact with the fetid thing that is human skin. And so the ones that we looked at the Folk Museum in Seoul one was silk, and the silk, I know some of you heard this before, but you're gonna hear it again. The silk was so silky that it flowed like water. It was astounding, really quite astounding. And it was so silky that it was willfully silky. It refused to be told what to do. We tried to get it to lay flat, and it would just kind of go whoop, smooth it out. It seemed sentient. It seemed like an octopus, actually, like a living octopus. If any of you have ever tried eating live octopus tentacles, I don't recommend it. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. Anyway, the other doksam was made of hemp. So there were 2 very different garments in terms of the feel of the fabric and also the way in which they were constructed. So, and it was just amazing to get to touch these garments that were worn by a noblewoman who lived 500 years ago. And she was buried with about 65 garments plus some other things. She was buried, yeah, but the 65 garments plus stuff.
Oh, right.
Right? So she was buried with about 65 items of clothing in her coffin. I don't mean kind of decorating the tomb. I mean on her body, in the coffin, she was interred in, packed in, like she was going to be shipped to heaven, to the afterlife. And so we have, because of that, from the Joseon dynasty, Korea has so many extant garments that are so well preserved, because when you pack a body in with that much fabric in the tight confines of a coffin, decay doesn't set in. The body doesn't rot, and so the clothing doesn't rot either. So not only do you have all these garments that have magically survived centuries, almost undamaged. In some cases, they get discolored and the dye stuffs fade or oxidize to something else. But you also have wet mummies. And I mean that. The bodies are in such a good state of preservation that it looks like this person died not very long ago. And they're recognizable. You can see all their features. You can see their hair. The contents of their last meal are still in their digestive tract. It's an absolutely uncanny situation, and it's unique in the world because of a combination of the way that people in the Joseon dynasty prepared their dead for burial, and also the conditions of the ground and the style of tomb that they were using. So it's this amazing confluence of factors that has resulted in an amazing preservation of Korean material culture. Easy to see the funerary practices, all these garments, men and women, that have survived, all these textiles that have survived. Absolutely astounding. Okay, let me see. Is this a kimono? It is not. Yeah, this is not a kimono. This is hanbok, which literally means Korean clothing. It's a word that was invented at the end of the 19th century to distinguish Korean styles and fashions from Western fashions, right? So this is the historical clothing of Korea from the 19th century. I hesitate to use the word traditional because that implies that it hasn't changed, and that's not true. Hanbok is still evolving to this day because now designers have taken it up again and have started incorporating hanbok styles and cuts and the different layers into their modern lines even. So that's why I don't like using the word traditional Korean clothing. This is historical Korean clothing as I'm wearing it, because this is the 19th century style. You've got the high-waisted chima here. You can see it's a wrap skirt, right? You can see my underlayers. And then you've got the tangi over top, right? Yeah. So Korea, this is Korea for those who are wondering. Let me see. I feel every fabric I work with moves on their own. Kiri, I mean, yeah, it's to a certain extent. I mean, that's kind of true. Fabric. Do you own cats?
It's their fault.
Silk. I look at silk as being like the cat of the fabric world. Let me see. Goodness, I'm sorry, I've gotten really behind in the comments. Let me see. Yeah, kimono and hanbok are completely different. Now they are, but interestingly, if you go back 2,000 years, what people were wearing in China and what is now China, what is now Korea, what is now Japan, they were wearing very, very similar things. And you can see that based on the statuary and the tomb paintings that have survived, to the point where there are people in China who claim they invented Korean clothing. There are people in Korea who say they're the ones who invented Japanese clothing. There are people in Japan who said they're the ones who invented Chinese clothing, right? I call it the baklava problem. If you go to the Middle East and you go to, Western Asia, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, right, especially around the Mediterranean, everyone claims that they invented baklava, or in Northern Africa. Everyone claims they invented baklava. And the truth is that it may have just been they all kind of invented it at the same time and all together as a group activity. But, it's hard to tell at a distance of 2,000 years. Yeah. Yeah, hanbok definitely. I would never. Hanbok as we currently see it, definitely not a kimono. Nothing like it. Yeah.
And we do own kimono as well.
Biphasic sleep. Is someone participating in biphasic sleep? Yeah.
You own kimono. We can show the difference.
Let me see. What is your opinion on medieval biphasic sleep? Sleep at 8 p.m., wake up at midnight, stay up until 2, then sleep again, if it's healthy or not. Randy, okay, so biphasic sleep is actually, seems to be, as more increasing studies have come out on this, seems to be the thing humans should do. And it's the thing that it seems across the world societies did before industrialization, basically before the factories took over. And it sort of depended on your climate, right? How the biphasic sleep would be broken up. So biphasic sleep is, I agree, biphasic sleep is the way to go. And I think if we were allowed to actually just fall into a biphasic sleep pattern, we would all be less anxious and less depressed. Honestly, that's what I, yeah. So medieval biphasic sleep for the win. Yeah, for those who don't know, in medieval Europe, people would wake up, and that's why we have the reference to first sleep and second sleep, or a midnight nap. People would actually basically go to bed at sunset, whenever sunset was, because it depended on, the sort of cycle of the day. If it wasn't a feast day anyway, they would go to sleep at roughly sunset. They would sleep for 4-ish hours, and then everyone would get up and they would do things. And that's why, oh.
They're very excited. They were checking to see if you
Sorry,
were real.
there was a group of Koreans who came over to check and make sure I was real.
They were all very happy.
They were all very, very happy. They wanted, I think they were taking my picture too. Anyway, this is what Koreans think of Westerners wearing hanbok. They like it, especially if the Westerners are doing so with respect and care for the culture. Anyway, the biphasic sleep, if we could actually fall into that rhythm, it would be great. We have records of people playing games, telling stories, dancing, sometimes doing sort of daily tasks, work that they could do in limited light situations. This is also, people talk about the monks who would sing mass, pray, basically sing prayers at a cycle that is across the 24 hours of the day. And one of those times was midnight. And a lot of modern people hear that and think, wow, it was so hard to be a monk in the Middle Ages. They'd get up at midnight and go and sing mass, and then they assume that means they stayed up. That was it, they got up and stayed up. No. Midnight was roughly kind of the time when biphasic sleepers would naturally get up. And then they would do their things. In the case of monks in a monastery, it would be to sing matins, I think is the one at midnight, but don't hold me to that. I really should.
Twitchy.
Twitchy, are you still there? Is matins the prayer that's sung at midnight? Twitchy is my monastic expert. Anyway, so they would sing matins, and then they would go back to sleep until it was time for the next prayer, which I think was at 6 a.m. But again, Twitchy, you're my monastic expert. So yeah, biphasic sleep is absolutely the way to go, and I wish we could go back to it, but the way the modern world is scheduled, that's unlikely to happen, unfortunately, for most people.
So we retire,
Yep.
then I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, let me see. Trevor, okay, I missed some comments. Don't cheat is fire. I'm not certain what that was. I missed what historical, okay, hold on a minute. Okay. Did someone ask where I was? Yeah, this is Starbucks, believe it or not, in Daegu, South Korea. And the reason we like Starbucks, I don't go to Starbucks in America, generally, or anywhere else, but I go there in Korea because it's a place I know I can get Jeju organic green tea. super high quality pyramid bags, big leaf. It's not quite whole leaf, but it's big leaf. It's not tea sweepings. Brought fresh from, freshly made in Jeju. It's a Korean product. It's high quality. Other coffee shops in Korea generally only don't sell very good tea, and it's more expensive than it is at Starbucks. And there aren't many tea houses anymore, depending on where you are. There are tea houses concentrated in certain kind of touristy areas in Seoul, like Insadong, but in other places you have to go pretty far to find a tea house. It's not like it used to be. So, and this Starbucks in particular, it's magnificent. Plus it has floor seating, and I like floor sitting. Yeah. Let me see. Can I ask where in the States you are from? Oh, hello, Keith, welcome. Yeah, Manthan, like Nathan, but Manthan. Can I ask where in the States you are from? I am originally from Delaware. I'm a Delaware native. You may never meet another Delaware native either virtually or in person. There aren't that many of us relative to the world population, and Delawareans don't often leave Delaware. So yeah, I'm originally from Delaware, but I left Delaware when I was 22 and immigrated to Europe and basically lived in Germany for 12 years. And then I moved to Korea. I went back to the US for a year. Then I went back to Korea for 2 years. Then I went back to the US for an unfortunate 2 years during COVID, and then back to Korea, more or less. So yeah, I haven't spent much of my adult life in the US, to be frank.
Man, we split our team between Trenton and Washington and Mississippi.
Yeah. Like Nathan Manhattan. Yeah, I'm a globetrotter. I'm not settled anywhere. We're currently on what I call long-term visitation here in Korea for reasons that I won't go into here. But I am a globetrotter, and that's why I have a travels with the Creative Contessa channel. So this is technically not my travel channel, but it's kind of turned into a travel chat because I'm not wearing medieval clothing, and that's triggering the algorithm differently, very clearly. Oh, did she? Shit. Oh, she didn't notice. Oh, shit. So if you're interested in travel content, then you should check out my Travels with the Creative Contessa channel. I actually live streamed a walk through the cherry blossoms over in Tonggu earlier today. And I have a Walking with the Creative Contessa channel, which is for people who want to just go on walks with me and see beautiful things wherever I am in the world. But yeah, I'm definitely a globetrotter, always have been. I kind of view myself as a citizen of the world, but I love Korea. I love historical Korean culture, traditional Korean culture, if we want to use that term. I like Koreans, they're so friendly and welcoming. I love the sense of community that is here in Korea, that we are all together. We need to take care of this whole place together. We should make sure that we're doing things that don't disrupt our fellow neighbors. Right, I like the care that Koreans have for the tasks that they undertake, and I also like Koreans have a real joie de vivre. Honestly, they just enjoy life, right? They love eating, they love getting together, they love drinking, they love singing. Like there's such a joy in life here, really. Yeah. Have I been to any of the Scandinavian countries? Yes, all of them. I lie, not Norway. I haven't been to Norway yet. I lived in Germany for 12 years, so yeah, I have friends all over Europe. I've spent a lot of time in Sweden. I've spent some time in Finland. I've been to Iceland. I've been all over Europe. I've been most places in Western Europe, just some of the micro states. I haven't been to Andorra. I haven't been to San Marino. I haven't actually been to Liechtenstein yet. Yeah, he's been to Liechtenstein. I haven't been to Poland yet. I have been to most of the Balkan states except for Macedonia. Yeah.
I've been to 2 of the Baltic states.
Aren't a lot of Koreans overworked though? Yeah, so that's Manthan. That is one of those interesting paradoxes about Korean society, right? They are overworked, but because they're overworked, when they enjoy life, they enjoy it. Right, when we were walking today on Tonggu, on the Kumhogang, the river that's on the eastern extremity of the city, at about 5 o'clock, you could tell that work was over for many people. And everyone was out walking in the beautiful cherry blossom arcade, this several mile walk that's just cherry blossoms on the river, and people had brought picnic blankets and chairs, and they'd laid things out. They were there either with their boyfriends or their girlfriends or their husbands or their wives or their families or their children, and they were trying to get the most enjoyment they could out of life. So yes, Koreans are actually very overworked. And that's a problem because increasingly Koreans are deciding they don't want to work in an office, and instead they're going to do something like open a cafe, thinking that a cafe might be easier, but it's not, because now everyone owns a cafe or runs a cafe, and it's a really hard life. I was just reading an article in the Korean Herald about this.
Cafes have closed this year than have opened.
Yeah, this is the first year in Korea that more cafes have closed than opened. So. Yeah.
Last year, 2025.
Well, this is not North Korea, guys. This is South Korea. North Korea, whole other world, and I can't say much about it. Yep. Can I ask how you finance your many travels? I am very good at managing money. We work hard and we save our money, and instead of buying, like, we don't have a car. So we don't spend our money on, expensive clothes. We don't spend our money on eating out at expensive restaurants.
Expensive clothes.
Yes, well, we buy things very infrequently. We're just good at managing and saving money. And I also play the credit card points game. So I take advantage of, anything we buy, we use on a credit card, and I get points, and then I use points to book airplane tickets and hotel rooms and that kind of thing. I'm also good at finding good deals. I've always had a nose for bargain hunting. So there's a lot of ways to travel inexpensively, especially in Asia. And when I lived in Europe, it was easy to travel around Europe because it was a train ride or a short, inexpensive flight to anywhere in Europe. So it was easy to travel around Europe cheaply if you live there already, right? If you don't have to make the big trip across the pond. But there are ways to travel on a budget. And I do have some tips on that on my Travels with the Creative Contessa channel. In fact, I'm going to set up a live stream where all I do is talk about budget travel and how to do it. So maybe keep your eye on my Travels with the Creative Contessa channel for that. Yeah, okay, whatever. Unfortunately, I can't really, I can't believe we forgot. I thought we packed I thought you had the portable charger. Oh well.
Yeah, well, I thought you brought your bag.
No.
There's no plugs. That's hardwired into the floor.
Got it. Yep.
Are you about to die?
No, I'm not. No, it's just I needed you to. I don't want to press on the screen and accidentally.
If we face the camera the other way, I can.
Yeah, but then it looks like garbage.
Well, then the trolls
Yeah.
will have to.
Oh well. Cultural appropriation much? Oh, are you another of those Westerners who thinks you need to save Koreans? You don't, baby cakes. You really don't. Oh, goodbye. Yep. Have I been to China? It's been on my, wait, did I delete the wrong? Yeah.
Did you block me again?
No, I didn't. I don't think so anyway. Adam is the baby cakes because he's a cute little man baby who thinks that Koreans need him to protect them. So just to be clear, I am working, first off, we're in Korea. And I'm about to interview a bunch of Koreans on this topic. Koreans do not consider it cultural appropriation when foreigners wear hanbok. They actually like it when foreigners do it if they are wearing it in a respectful way, as I am. And a lot of Koreans make a lot of money from foreigners buying and wearing hanbok, traditional Korean clothing. I'm actually working with Koreans on a major research project to recreate Korean clothing, historical Korean clothing, so it's not cultural appropriation. What shoes are you wearing? I'm not wearing any shoes because this is floor seating. So this is the floor seating area, so my shoes are over there in the shoe area, and hopefully they will still be there when I leave. No. In Korea, it's not a question of theft. So unfortunately, a lot of people apparently here in Daegu have the same shoes or shoes that look very similar. And so there was a problem with people accidentally taking other people's shoes. And so they had to put up a sign to please be careful that you're only taking your shoes and not someone else's. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the credit card points, I forgot about that. It's such a real savings in Korea. It's pretty insane that it's not anything really like it in America. Oh no, Tamekor, we don't have Korean credit cards. All of our credit cards are American. Way more points that you can get in American credit cards than on Korean ones. The sign-up bonuses for American cards are way higher. Yep. Yeah. Little bro dated all sorts of Asian. Oh, Adam, you are a miserable piece of shit. Why can't I freaking block him?
Let me do it.
Oh, there it is. IDs are on this channel. Okay, Adam, goodbye. The airlock is for you. You are an ignorant piece of garbage, and I hope that you get every bad little thing that's coming your way, baby cakes. Love you. Yeah. Yeah, I got him. He's gone. Maybe a sticker inside the shoes will help with identifying your shoes. Is that not already a business? Yeah, that's pretty funny. That is pretty funny. Yep. So my shoes don't look like anyone else's, so I'm not worried about them. But you know, everyone else here seems to have like Prada or Gucci or something like that. So Chanel sneakers are really popular here. So yeah, maybe they should be putting little stickers in their shoes. Why do people hate so much? It's so annoying. Yeah, I don't know, Stephanie. Okay, so I'll be honest. I am an intelligent, educated woman, and I'm not going to be modest about that. I'm well-spoken, and that triggers little boy men who have small phallic members. So yeah, that's why they hate so much, because they are triggered and they are made to feel insecure because of their own inadequacies. That's why, Stephanie, sadly. Yeah, Steph, they're just hungry for attention, or maybe have terrible lives themselves. Yeah, probably. They probably do. He's probably a miserable little poop. And I've hidden him, so basically he's been shadow banned, so he'll be able to keep talking to himself and no one will be able to see him. It's the best kind of punishment. Of course, he might come back with another account, but that's okay. I'll just shadow ban that one too. Yeah, little pissants like that, they don't touch me, sorry. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Oh gosh, potato famine. Let me see. May I ask, what made you decide to visit Korea for the first time? The first time, Uni is still there. Hi, Uni. Yeah. So no, that's not true. We volunteered.
Yeah, we did.
Yep. So my husband recently retired from the U.S. Army, and when we got married, he was in Captain's Career Course, and he was offered a choice of assignments, and all of them were shitty assignments in America. And we looked at our branch manager, his human resources manager, basically, and said, aren't there any spots in Korea? And this was crazy. This human resources manager actually said, wait, you want to go to Korea? Yes, of course we want to go to Korea. It's an amazing country from what we can tell. So that was what got us here the first time. And every time thereafter that we came back, we volunteered for, we pushed for, we fought for. So the first time was based on our own understanding of Korea. And every time thereafter was because we wanted to. Because we love it here, because it feels like home, because we feel safe, because there is beauty everywhere to be found, an increasing amount of it, because of the people, because of the museums, because of the food, because of the public transportation, because the weather isn't too bad. Winter can be a little hard and summer can be a little hard, but summer's like home to me, so it doesn't bother me so much. Yeah, there's a lot of good reasons to be in and visit Korea.
Kimchi.
Kimchi
is a good reason too.
Kimchi is absolutely a good reason to love Korea, especially if you can get the artisanal kimchi, the homemade, locally made kimchi, or if you can get the really interesting kimchis. Yeah. K-pop is one thing I dislike about Korea. I'm neutral to K-pop. It has an okay sound. I think the idolization bothers me a bit, but I'm kind of bothered by the idolization in general. Yeah.
Korean Idol.
Let me see. I don't know. My wife at the time, we were saving hundreds of dollars a month using some shopping points because she was fluent in Korean and Cantonese. Yeah. Yeah. I heard a lot of servicemen serve in Korea for a while. Yeah. And now Korea is an assignment of choice.
The intelligent ones want
Yeah, the intelligent service members from the U.S. want to be here and they want to stay here. And so a lot of American service members are fighting to stay here as long as they can. Yeah, kimchi is definitely a good reason.
It's great kimchi yesterday.
Oh, let me see. So sorry, Kiri, I misunderstood Kiri. Uniforms already been a thing for a long time, so the shoe thing's got to have been a problem for a long time, right? So why have I not seen shoe stickers as a thing already? That's a good question, Kiri. I feel like that's a business niche, right? Like that's a niche in the market that could be filled. David, I can see your comments, although maybe I can't see all of them if you're asking me that. Hartpreet Singh, maybe we missed a question. If we missed a question, David, let me know. Hartpreet Singh, your dress looks great. Thank you. This is hanbok. So this is actually not a dress, it's a bunch of layers put together. There's three different skirts, plus a pair of what are culottes, or what people might call bloomers. And then on top of that is this danso coat. So it's a whole ensemble. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, it's quite an ensemble. Try visiting old Buddhist temples in remote Korea. Oh yeah, I love getting to the oldest Buddhist temples in Korea. Yeah. Well, Bulgoksa is not exactly remote, but Haeinsa. I've been to Haeinsa. I've been to. Oh, it's a beautiful one. It's one of the first ones that was built in Hadong, back in the 7th century. Yeah, I know. It's gorgeous. It's up in the mountains in Jeollamdo, which is tea country, and it's just green and verdant, and it's up in the mountain, and it's so peaceful. And even on a hot summer day, it's cool and the air is clear up there. Yeah, I love getting to mountain temples, Buddhist mountain temples in Korea. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's really amazing, and it's something everyone should do.
Which century?
Which century? This is 19th century. So this is more second half of the 19th century, towards the end of the 19th century, when you have the chima being tied up really high around the waist, because up until the early 19th century, women were wearing their chima at their waist, not up here. It's only in the end, sort of the very end of the Joseon dynasty, that they start wearing the skirts higher up like this. Is your husband camera shy? No, he's just not. Well, I guess he is a little camera shy, but he's also not wearing anything. He didn't dress in hanbok today, even though he has beautiful Joseon style Yangban hanbok. He did not wear it today.
We've been to Bulgoksa, yes.
Yeah, we have been to Bulgoksa, and in fact, right now is the time to go to Bulgoksa because it's cherry blossoms.
That area right
the cherry blossom meadow at Bulgoksa. Yeah, we have been to Bulgoksa, which is, for those who don't know, was originally built by Queen Sondok in the 7th century, and unfortunately, it was burnt down by the Japanese in the Imjin War. The only thing that survived was the stone foundations, which they still have, which are unique in Buddhist temples in Korea. So you can still go see at least the beautiful stone masonry that was built, that was created almost 1,500 years ago.
Great Omija.
Oh, they've got great Omija cha, which they make themselves, Shisandra tea, which the cafe at Bulgoksa actually ferments itself. They make themselves. It's quite amazing. See, there he is. Wearing boring clothes. Yeah, Bulgoksa is amazing. It's an absolute must visit. Good morning, CK. Tommy Core lives in rural Pennsylvania, next to my home state of Delaware. Let me see. I use gochujang to teach myself to eat hot food. Yeah, I guess gochujang is a good bridge into spicy food.
Yeah, it depends on the gochu.
Yeah. Lucy Cat, lovely to see you. Yeah, it's really admirable how you take an interest in history and study it. I want to follow your example. Uni, I encourage you to follow my example. You know, here's the thing about history. It's not taught well. And it's definitely not taught well in Korea from what all my friends have told me about their history class experiences in school. History should be the most interesting topic at school. Why? Because it's a story. It's the story of humanity, of our development. And it's full of adventures. It's full of love. It's full of romance. It's full of violence. It's full of jealousy. It's full of adventure. And yet somehow that never gets taught in history class. History is generally taught as a list of dull, tedious dates and battles and great men doing great things. But they never teach anything that is relatable to people, or they rarely teach anything that is relatable. How did people live on a daily basis? What did they use how did they comb their hair? How did they wash their hair? How did they bathe? What did they eat? What games did they play? What kind of dances did they do? What kind of music did they listen to? None of that is ever taught in school, in history class, unless you're lucky enough to have a history teacher who will step outside of the standard curriculum. And so most people find history tedious and boring, and I don't blame them. So part of my goal is to make history seem interesting and exciting to people, right? So yeah, absolutely.
I was able to thumbs up and then it died.
I didn't catch your name. I am the creative Contessa. Rachel is my name. Welcome to my community, Manthan. Thank you for joining us. Put some gold accessories on him to make him matte. So actually, in the Joseon dynasty, accessorization was very minimized compared to previous dynasties because Joseon dynasty is highly Neo-Confucian. And Neo-Confucianism focuses very heavily on modesty. And that is one of the reasons that they started finding subtle ways of accessorizing. So for example, a binya made of gold, instead of earrings and necklaces and that sort of thing. Or kumbak, the gold printing on the tangi, so that, even though the fabric itself is relatively simple, you've got the gold printing, embroidery patches, right? But basically, the simplicity of the Joseon of Neo-Confucianism meant that people found other ways to accessorize themselves. For the men, they had hairpins for the buns that men wore, the man buns, right? That men in the Joseon dynasty wore. And they would sometimes be made of gold, or they would be gold plated, or they would have a little piece of jade on the top, or a little gold ornament on the top. But the irony of these ornamental bun pins, man bun pins, is that they were never seen, or almost never seen, because the men, Joseon is the land of 1,000 hats. So the men would then wear a hat on top of their man bun of some kind. And so almost no one would ever really see the man bun, except for the young bun, who would wear a hat called a gat. And the gat is, the very nice ones were made of horsehair, and a very fine mesh made of horsehair, so they were translucent. So if you looked at just the right angle, you might catch a glimpse of the decorative hairpin holding that man bun in place. And then the men would also wear a hairband called a mangyeon, that goes around their head like this and keeps their hair straight back from their face and keeps it all orderly, unlike my hair, which is disorderly. But on the side, they could put a little button, and to ornament it, the button could be made of jade or some kind of gem, or maybe gold or coral or some other precious or semi-precious stone. It's just a little small button. It's not much, but it was a way that even within the strictures of Neo-Confucian modesty, men could also ornament themselves. Women didn't have necklaces, but men had the hat beads, right? They would actually suspend from their mangyeon, from their headbands, or sometimes from their hats. They would suspend these long strands of beads, some of them made of precious or semi-precious stones. So in some ways, it was almost easier for the men to ornament themselves than it was for the ladies in the Joseon dynasty.
The little dot is like cufflinks.
Yeah, the little dot is like cufflinks, right? Kevin, lovely to see you. Welcome back, my friend. In honor of that, should we have a ball of 1,000 hats at Penzik, perhaps? Yeah, maybe, except that by the time Joseon is the land of 1,000 hats, that's kind of past the SCA period. But still, that could be really cool. That could be really fun.
It'd just be fun to do anyways, yeah.
Because as we've noted, the hat makes the outfit.
Yeah, the hat makes the outfit, everyone. So remember, if you're wearing historical clothing, but your hair is not done in the historical way, or you're not wearing the right headdress or hat or head covering or hair ornamentation, you will look like someone wearing a costume, a modern person wearing a costume. But if you have the hair and the hat and the headdress, right, plus the clothing, then you look like a historical figure.
Like that guy we saw yesterday.
Yeah. The old Buddhist temples always have the best tofu restaurants. They do, and makgeolli shops around them also. Yeah. So compliment. Thank you. Hello, beautiful dress. Yeah. So this is Hangul. I am wearing a chima, a skirt, several chima actually, and a pair of culottes, or what we would call bloomers in English, dansokot. Fluffy underpants that make everything fluffy, and over top of that the tangi, which is basically, you know, it's a top garment that folds over in the front and ties like this, and it's open on the side and has a front and back, so it looks nice and elegant. So yeah. Let me see. There was a question here. Is there anything which happened in history which you want to spread awareness of relating to femininity and power? Yeah, women are part of history.
Just flat out.
Just flat out. Even in the most patriarchal societies, women find a way to assert themselves, to express power in their own way. They find a way to influence things, and Joseon Dynasty is no exception. So in the Joseon Dynasty, for instance, Neo-Confucian, very patriarchal, women are at the bottom of the hierarchy according to Joseon strictures, or to Neo-Confucian strictures. And Neo-Confucianism starts to be adopted and kind of gradually spread out through Joseon society when Taejo becomes king. And I forget what his name was before he became king. He was a general of the Goryeo dynasty, and he turned against his king like the traitor he was and overthrew him. You can tell I have some feelings about this. And he was a Neo-Confucian. He followed those precepts, and he decided that the best thing for his new kingdom, for his new dynasty, was to implement Neo-Confucianism across society. Before Taejo took over in 1398, I think, might need to check that date, but the end of the 14th century, before he took over, Goryeo, the country, the dynasty that actually, from which the name Korea comes, because that's the time that this kingdom entered the English consciousness, was during the Goryeo dynasty, right? So during the Goryeo dynasty and during the Shilla dynasty and Baekje and Goryeo and Gaya, all those, the three kingdoms, right? They were matrilocal societies, which means that when two people got married, a man and a woman, the man went and lived with his wife and his wife's family, and instead of the wife going to his home and his family. And in the Goryeo dynasty, women did not take the last names of their husband. They retained their own name. They retained their own affiliation. Women could own property. Women could run businesses. Women could inherit. And in fact, in the Goryeo dynasty, inheritance was evenly divided amongst the children. So it also prevented a concentration of wealth to the top, right? So it was a much more equitable society on the whole, and women played a much more equal role on an official level. Well, along comes Taejo with his Neo-Confucian principles, and that's kind of the slow start of the decline of the Joseon dynasty, because as it turns out, if you have an extremely hierarchical society that suppresses 50% of your population and disempowers their contributions and their innovation, it results in, it stagnates, your society stagnates. Nevertheless, women figured out a way to exert power, and one of the ways was to become not the wife, no, but the mother, the queen mother, right? The mother-in-law, because she would be the one who would have power. So in the royal court, that was the queen dowager. You wanted to be the mother of the king. You didn't even have to have been queen when your son was crown prince, or if he was even crown prince. But if you become the queen dowager, suddenly everyone respects you and you control a lot of things, and your advice is heeded, you are respected, and you are listened to. And that structure kind of played its way down through, permeated its way through lower levels of Joseon society as well. So in a Yangban household, in a noble household, the wife's goal was to have a son, so that her son would inherit the estate, and then she would be the queen mother of the household. She would be the one with power, right? So women figured out how to gain power in that way. They figured out how to manipulate their sons, their husbands, their fathers, right, in order to make sure that they still had a voice, subtle as those manipulations may have been. But also in the Joseon dynasty, there were giseng. And giseng were professional entertainers. They were courtesans, and a lot of people confuse the giseng with sex workers, and that's an absolute oversimplification. There was often sex work involved, but not always. Very frequently, it just involved entertaining the noblemen, because another side effect of Joseon Neo-Confucian principles was the separation of men and women from each other's social spheres. Because under Neo-Confucian tenets, under Old Confucian tenets, men and women should lead separate lives and should only come together for official ritual occasions. And one of those ritual occasions was procreation. And procreation amongst the upper classes was regulated, especially in the royal family, was regulated by astrological tables, deciding when the most auspicious time for procreation would be. Now, not everyone abided by those tables, mind you, but those who did found themselves not having as many children as they probably could have. It's probably why Eleanor of Aquitaine's husband also didn't really produce many children, because anyway. So giseng were educated in Chinese writing as well. In the Chinese classics, they could read and write poetry in Chinese and in Chinese, using Chinese characters. They could compose music, they could sing, they could play music, they could dance, they could debate philosophy. They became the female companions of choice because they were engaging and educated. And so the Yangban and those who were wealthy enough to afford access to these giseng houses would go and spend time with women there, which somehow didn't violate the tenets of Neo-Confucianism, which said that men and women should lead separate lives, right? So yeah, there's all kinds of ways that women find a way to be individuals, to have their own power, to have their own agency, even in the most repressive systems. You just have to look for the ways, and they're not always in your face obvious, and that's okay. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Oh goodness, lots of comments.
How many do you have to make?
No, I don't think, Jeremy, no offense. So just so everyone knows, so here's my format. If someone asks a question, I kind of go off on a semi-lecture where it's improvised, it's extemporized, and then I get back to the chat to answer questions, because if I look at the chat and answer questions while I'm answering the question, it ruins the flow of the information, right? Okay, so I've answered that question. I will now look at the chat. Let me see. Okay, the Sheila period is really interesting too. Oh yeah, it's the only kingdom in history that had 3 female leaders. Yeah. The Sheila kingdom, the Sheila dynasty. It's fantastic, and we go to Gyeongju on a regular basis, and I just love learning more and more about Sheila history, because yeah, Sheila had 3 queens regnant. Right, and it was not even a problem. No one thought anything about it. And in fact, when it came time for the succession, and it was the next in line was a woman, no one said boo about it. They just went with it. And some of the best rulers of Sheila were the women. They had the most prosperous reigns. They had the best reigns, the best economic outcomes, the best martial outcomes in some cases. Yeah. Okay, let me see. As Kiri says, and that's how generational trauma, favoritism of the gender started. Yeah, 100%, you know? No argument. Konnichiwa. Thank goodness for matriarchal women and for men by their sides. I mean, I'm going to tell you that I believe that all genders have a role to play, and that all people have a role to play. I believe that individuals all have different strengths and different weaknesses, and that we complement each other. And that by taking an entire 50+% of the population and removing them from productive roles in society, you are condemning your society to ultimate failure. And that happened in Joseon. It took a long time, mind you, but only because of Korea's geography, right? Korea has always had a very fortuitous geography because of the mountains that are now in the north of North Korea, the mountains all along the peninsula, and the ocean on 3 sides, right? That has allowed it to become what was called the Hermit Kingdom, and made it relatively harder to invade, although people still found ways. Joseon Dynasty would have fallen way sooner had Korea been in the middle of the mainland, middle of China, for instance. Had it shared a land border with China on 3 sides instead, because the Neo-Confucian strictures of the Joseon Dynasty absolutely robbed it of its innovative strength. For instance, the rules supporting modesty in the Joseon Dynasty led kings to ban, for instance, weaving of beautiful brocaded fabrics. They stopped weaving the kinds of fabrics they had been weaving at that point for 1,500 or more years. Because Korea used to have an amazing silk industry. It used to produce silks that were being exported all over Asia, highly desirable. And along comes, I don't remember which king, I have to go look it up. Along comes this king of Joseon, I think it was in the 18th century, and he decides that it violates Neo-Confucian strictures to have garments made out of this fabric, this beautiful brocade, and damask. And so he outlaws that weaving. And so that complex weaving technology and know-how and mastery goes away. And Korea loses one of its big exports, right? So yeah, Neo-Confucianism for the loss. I don't have a lot of good to say about Neo-Confucianism. Yeah. Herb Queen, have a lovely day. See you later. Are there surviving documents on gender non-conforming people in ancient China? China is not my bag. I cannot say anything about China. I can only speak about China as they interacted with Korea, but I know nothing about gender, anything in Chinese history, not modern, not past, so I can't answer China. Korea, I haven't done much research into gender roles or gender conformity, non-conformity, so I can't really answer that either. It's harder to do research on that into Korea unless you have an academic level mastery of Korean, and my Korean isn't there yet. So I generally have to work with other academics, Korean academics to do research. It's harder than you think. Yeah. Let me see. Oh, poor little rock. Do you have a tiny phallus? Do you suffer from microfallacy? Oh, poor baby. Out the airlock you go. Goodbye. Goodbye. Bye-bye, baby cakes. Oh. He really thought he was going to bother me by telling me that I look so old? Fuck him. Oh, goodness. Okay. Can I tell my hold on a minute, wait a minute, everyone. Oh, we're at 12%. Okay. Right. I tuned in just in time for the great yeeting. Takeda, you already missed one yeeting. There was already one microphallic individual who had to be booted. Yeah, there was already one microphallic individual who had to be booted. Yeah. Heard in passing that there's a lot of plants that were outlawed and popularized in the same-ish way that has led to our collective knowledge declining too. Yeah, Tornado Garden, thank you, Tornado, welcome. Yeah, double tap your screen if you're enjoying this live stream, everyone. Oh, GFC Wood Chipper, good evening. Good evening from Daegu. Thank you for joining us. Daegu, South Korea. Favorite supernatural story that I've heard. My favorite supernatural story is my own, actually. My own personal experience, because it was real and I still can't explain it to this day. My grandmother, I'm from Delaware, a small state on the east coast of the US, and my grandmother lived in a 200-year-old home, which by American standards is old, I would like to point out. And I was about 13 years old. It was a Friday afternoon. We were off of school that day because of an in-service. And I was just cleaning because I liked to clean. Vacuuming was very restful for me. And I was listening to music and vacuuming, listening to Counting Crows, no less. And suddenly, the vacuum stopped and the stereo stopped, but the lights stayed on. And the stereo and the vacuum were not plugged into the same outlet. Okay, well, that was a little freaky, but then from the kitchen, which was 2 rooms away, I start hearing the very loud clatter of plates. My grandmother had willow-ware plates, original antique ones from England. They were very, very heavy. And they were clattering like it sounded like someone was taking a whole stack of them and shaking them. And then the clattering got louder and louder and louder. And so I was alone, home alone, 13 years old. I did not stick around. I left, I went out the front door and sat on the front porch. The house was on a busy street. It was on the first street of the town in which I grew up. It's called Front Street, founded in the 18th century. And I just watched, it was a sunny day, and I watched the cars go by. I watched people walk by. Everything felt normal out there on the front porch. Eventually I realized I was going to have to go back into the house eventually. So I crept around the side because, like a lot of traditional historical American homes, there was a back entrance. I crept around the side of the house, through the side yard, into the backyard, and approached the kitchen window on the deck that was on the back side of the house. And I peered in through the window, expecting that I was going to see shattered willow-ware plates everywhere. There was nothing. So I opened the back door to the kitchen and I gently listened. And I heard the stereo was playing again and the vacuum cleaner was on and there was no more clattering of plates. There was no earthquake. Delaware is not in an earthquake zone. Nothing else was shaking. There were no heavy trucks driving by or anything like that. So I don't know what it was to this day. It was a very creepy, and I say supernatural because it is above nature. I don't understand what exactly was happening, but everything went about when it was as though nothing had happened, right? It was like something was toying with me and then it got bored. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, my mom has a 200-year-old house in New Mexico. We actually lived in Albuquerque for 2 years during COVID, which I think you knew, CK, right? Yeah, yeah. Please, I'm not going to pull my hairpin out because then I have to fix it again. But here, there's my binya. No, it's not real gold. I don't have a real gold binya. I'd like one, but I don't have a real one. I just want to ask, just a thought, but you look too thin for the dress. No? Too thin? No. This is the right thing. Yeah. Neguaye has it right. This is Neguaye. Yeah, Neguaye has it right. It's called a binya. Yeah, or negua, because A is the rest of the thing. Yeah, it does sound legit. It was. The plates were haunted. Carrie says, oh, you must have been behind the scenes in museums. Any museum horror stories? Not just the living fabrics. Thus far, I haven't gotten to see any creepy artifacts doing creepy things, but stay tuned because I will tell you that having now been into the bowels of 2 museums where they store the artifacts, there is a certain creep factor down there because generally you either go into an attic, which we did last time, or you go into the basement of the basement of the basement. So yeah, there's a creep factor there. It wouldn't surprise me if there's something attached to some of those artifacts, right? In Korea, Korea is a country that has a very rich rich ghost tradition, you know, just, I mean, Europe does as well. It's not a criticism, it's an observation, and it's very interesting.
Nothing like Thailand.
Yeah, nothing like Thailand, though. Thailand takes the cake on spirits and ghosts, like, seriously. You can be too thin for an Asian historical clothes? I don't think so. Am I in Seoul? No, we are in Daegu. In fact, we are at Starbucks in Daegu, South Korea, believe it or not, as crazy as that is. It's Korean dress. They usually have a round face. Oh, my face. Oh, no. Well, that's kind of racist, Haas. Goodness. So I'm not gonna comment on that. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, Koreans. So Tom of says Koreans were not very open to homosexuality when I was there a decade ago, and I doubt that stigma has changed much in the culture. It was so strong. It was okay to openly talk poorly of homosexuals. There has been a big change in Korea regarding homosexuals. Seriously big in the last 12 years. We've seen it happening to the point where K-dramas are openly depicting people in those kinds of relationships and addressing the topic and depicting them in a positive light, not just a negative one.
And
right?
not just as a joke.
Yeah, not just as a joke either. Yeah. Let me see other comments. Round face was a beauty standard for a time. So yeah, curious. Round face, oval face. So in the Goryeo dynasty, Korean women, Goryeo women, were reputed outside of Goryeo to actually have oval faces, and many of them did. There was a special, unique Korean facial type, and so the Mongols. One of the things they liked about Goryeo, and one of the reasons they invaded Goryeo, according to legend, was because of the women and their beauty, because Mongolian women did tend to have very round faces, whereas the Goryeo, the Korean women had more oval-shaped faces. And so one of the exchanges that happened, basically, Goryeo became a client state of the Yuan dynasty. The Yuan dynasty was the Mongolian dynasty that ruled China. And so Goryeo became a client kingdom of the Yuan dynasty. And one of the exchanges that they arranged was for Korean noblewomen to be sent to the Great Khan's court and for Mongolian noblewomen to be sent to Goryeo. And so a lot of Goryeo queens were actually Mongolian women. And so that there was actually a big blending, and not just at several levels of society, not just the royal level. So there was actually a blending of peoples in the Goryeo dynasty, shall we say. Yeah, don't have a lot of time left. Okay, let me see. Comment. I'd like to make a medieval girdle. Hardy, would you have any recommendations for sourcing patterns? Are you talking about commercial patterns? So those who don't know, a girdle, a coat hardy, this is medieval European clothing. I'm not wearing one today, but if you look on other videos on this channel, I have lots in me in a blue looking dress. That's basically a girdle. Do I have any recommendations on a commercial pattern?
You don't use them?
I do not. I don't use them. But I can recommend for a coat hardy, I can recommend the page Cote Simple, Cotte Simple. Tasha Dandelion Kelly, that's her page. I don't know if she's still maintaining it, but it's still up. So I would check that page out. I don't have good recommendations for commercial patterns. I can recommend the Medieval Tailor's Assistant as a book. It will help you draft your own pattern. That's Sarah Thursfield, and she's a colleague, excellent, very knowledgeable about English, French, Flemish fashions, right? And Medieval Tailor's Assistant is a must-have. Specifically for fashion in the 14th century, in like the court of Edward III, I can recommend Fashion in the Age of the Black Prince by Mary Stuart Evans, I believe. Right.
When I can tag things, go back to the video and I'll tag those books.
We will tag those books in this video, and if you go back and check on the little shopping bag, you can. We'll take you to it. Okay, everyone. I know everyone's finally coming online. I've got 5% left on my phone, and then it's going to die. Double tap that screen if you've been enjoying. Please subscribe. If you're new to my community, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being good, productive people in the comments. I'd like to thank my channel members, my patrons, my Facebook subscribers for supporting my historical material culture research, whether it's European or Korean. If you would like access to more resources, I publish a whole bunch of extra things for my patrons, channel members, and Facebook subscribers. Consider becoming a patron on Patreon. That probably has the most benefits, or a channel member. I'd like to thank all of you who left super chats and gave me little gifts today. And I would just like to thank all of you for being part of this growing community. If you're interested in following me on my travel adventures, check out Travels with the Creative Contessa. I have a whole set of playlists for Korea. Korean food, Korean culture, Korean history, tips and tricks for travel, hotels, places to go, places to stay, places to eat. Otherwise, everyone, tomorrow morning, my time, which will be tomorrow evening for many of you, I will be live with Philip from Irish Medieval History, and we'll be talking about the Holy Week, Easter celebrations, and also the relationship of Ireland and England in the Middle Ages. And then on Saturday morning will be medieval story time, I promise.
Tomorrow morning is today evening for them.
Tomorrow morning in Asia is today evening for many of you. The magic of time travel. If you had a question and I didn't answer it, and it was a real genuine question and not a cheeky question, please pop it in the comments and I will see it and respond to it once the video has posted. Otherwise, everyone, my phone is about to die. The screen's gone dark. I can't really see you all anymore. I love you all. Until next time, may your explorations of history be creative. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, everyone.